Hey guys, what's going on? Today I'm going to show you how you can create a workflow and n8n so you have your own personal spy that will be spying on your competition. Either you are in B2B, SaaS, any type of software, or even e-commerce if you have a competition that is releasing products frequently. Okay, so if you want to stay up to date, now you can have your own spy that will be essentially monitoring your competition's website or specific web page. And whenever there's a change, or for example, we can check that on a daily basis on specific time. Okay, so this is exactly what it's gonna do. Okay, if there's a change, it's gonna pull the data, it's gonna extract the data, it's gonna format it, and you're gonna receive a email notification, and that data will be as well logged in a Google Drive sheet, guys. Okay, so essentially, I'm gonna explain you how that works, how to do that. And as well, guys, if you want me to drop this entire template for free as a JSON, let me know down in the comments and I'll do it for free, guys, for you. Okay, so guys, let's go through it fast and let me explain you how that works and what it does exactly in details, guys. All right, so as an example, I'm using a ClickUp changelog webpage. Okay, so whenever there is a new update from ClickUp, again guys, I'm using ClickUp as a reference. Okay, I'm not trying to spy on ClickUp, it just really as a reference. You can plug and play any URL you want to, okay, and it's going to be spying on that URL. Okay, so I'm just using ClickUp as a reference so I can showcase you a demo. Okay, so this workflow tracks ClickUp's public changelog and automates updates using AI plus Sheets plus Gmail. Okay, so the way it works, okay, so we have a trigger, we have a cron trigger. If you guys come from software dev, we call this as a cron scheduler, or in n8n, I believe they call it scheduler trigger. I just renamed it as cron because it's more familiar to me, but essentially it's a schedule trigger node. Okay, so it does something on a schedule. So if I open it up here, for example, okay, so the trigger is being triggered every day at midnight. Okay, so every time after 12 a.m., it's going to go on that URL and it's going to rescan it and see if there is any new change or update. Okay, and we are preventing duplicates, and I'll explain you in a bit how we are doing that exactly. So we're essentially scraping the changelog. Okay, so we're getting the link through HTTP. Okay, then we are extracting HTML data and we're parsing that data into changelog entry. Okay, we're using some JavaScript, some basic JavaScript in the middle to kind of parse and form the data in a more user-friendly and proper formatting, guys. And I'll show you in a bit the notes for JavaScript as well, and I'll explain you everything in detail as well. So the things we are extracting is title, link, and summary. Okay, and then we're using ChatGPT's OpenAI node to essentially summarize everything. So we're using GPT-4.1 Mini because we don't need to use any expensive models just to create a basic summary based on the parsed data. Okay, so we are essentially converting the title plus summary into a one-line summary with key changes. And again, you can adjust the prompt if you want, for example, ChatGPT to give you some advices on how to keep up or what you should be doing in your R&D. Or if you're in SaaS, what kind of updates you should be aiming for to compete with your competition. Okay, so honestly, options are limitless. You can adjust the prompt the way you want it, but for now, we're just doing really the basics. So this you really beginner friendly, so you can really understand how it works, and then you can expand and grow this workflow as you want. Okay, all right. So that equals ChatGPT, the summarization, all that stuff. Okay, and then we're going into a duplicate check. Okay, so we're using n8n's memory. We're not using any memory nodes. Okay, this is essentially we're using just a built-in n8n memory that comes by default when you use JavaScript or whatever, any code nodes. Okay, and we are essentially doing very basic stuff. So we are checking for previous titles. We retrieve the last stored title from global memory. Okay, and then we update the new title and we save the new title if it's different. If it's not, we are not doing anything. This way we are preventing duplication, guys. Pretty simple, nothing really crazy there. And then we're using a data format. Again, we're using very simple JavaScript code to format the code, because if we are using the default variable, which is basically variable, and in there you put date now or just now, okay, it's going to give you a date format that is not really user friendly. Okay, so to make it more user friendly and clear, because we're going to be pulling that data into our changelog here on the sheet. Okay, so you want to make sure that it's friendly to understand. For example, if you're doing it for a client, so you want to make sure that your stakeholders or clients, whatever, they do understand the date format. If you don't do that, it's going to be sort of a default format like you would see in like a code base. Like, I don't know if guys, if I can keep, if I can pull you an example, guys, give me a sec. Yeah, guys, so in the email, essentially, it would be something like this. So we have the date 2025-06, and then we have this right here, okay? So we have these characters that are not properly formatted, okay? I believe the format name for this one was ISO format, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I'm wrong, but I believe it should be called ISO format, and ISO format is not really user-friendly. So if people who are not familiar with code or more tech-savvy, they just kind of be confused because there's like plus sign and everything. So ISO format, essentially, that's how it goes out of n8n in a raw format, okay? So that's why we're using JavaScript to kind of reformat it in a just normal date, something like 2025, June, and the date, and that's essentially all we want. Yeah, so we're doing the year, the month, the date, and the hours, minutes, and seconds, and etc. Okay, so then we're logging everything to a sheet. Okay, so we are logging everything to Google Sheets. Okay, the authentication is really simple. You don't need to add any API keys, whatever. You literally just log in through n8n to your Gmail account, and it essentially pulls all the data it needs to send the email notifications. Okay, so if you want to do something more complex, for example, if you would be generating content and then adding some video captions and stuff like that, and then you want to upload that automatically to YouTube through n8n workflow, you would need to use Google Cloud Console, pull some secret keys and plug and play into n8n. It's more complex, but if we're just doing email notifications, we can simply just authenticate through a login format in n8n, and it does the rest, which is pretty awesome, guys. But again, if you want me to show you more complex flows, how to automate, for example, content creation and make sure that the video gets uploaded into YouTube automatically. So all you do is drag and drop your video into a folder, and then everything is processed. We can even do something like adding descriptions, hashtags, and titles, guys. So if you want me to drop a free course to that, let me know down in the comments, and I'll do it, guys, for you for free. And then the last step, guys, we are essentially sending a email notification, and this sends a email update to arthur.debug@db5.com, which is my personal email. But again, you can change it to be based on your email or client's email, or essentially any email you want. And as an option number 2, what you can do, you can use a WhatsApp's Business Cloud option, okay? And if you do that instead of email, you can actually receive a direct text message on your WhatsApp phone number if you are on the business plan or business account. Okay, it's going to send you a message saying, hey, there is a changelog on your competition's website. Here's the notification. Here's the link. Go check it out. Okay, you can use, for example, Telegram. Okay, Telegram also have its own APIs. So honestly, options are really quite a lot. It really comes down to a preference, guys. Okay. So guys, now let's go through each node, and I'll just explain you everything in detail. So if you're a beginner, so you kind of like get to understand how it works behind the scenes. And also I'll try to keep it very basic in terms of explanations. Okay, I tried as well to make the flow very simple. As you guys see, it's not really complicated. There's only a couple of steps, but again, as a beginner, this is a really good way to start because it's fairly simple and it's not really too complex, and it's a good foundation and base to start building automations, and then you can expand on that. Okay, because essentially you will be often reusing the same nodes over and over again. Okay, in most of the cases, guys. So once you grasp the basic, it's fairly easy to do more complex automations as well. So here we have the cron check, or I just renamed the cron because it was more familiar to me, but essentially it's a scheduled trigger. And again, as I mentioned, so every day after midnight, it gets triggered and it goes on the competition's website or a link that we are providing in the later steps, and it checks if there has been a change, then parses the HTML and essentially follows with the rest of the flow. Okay, so that's step number 1. Then we have step number 2, which is get link to HTTP. We're using get method, guys. Okay, if you're not familiar with get methods or post methods, okay, essentially those are sort of API calls. So we have a few of them. So we're going to be using, in most of the cases, get or post. Okay, within n8n workflow. Okay, so when we're using get, we are essentially trying to get something from a source, from a URL, from a HTTPS request. Okay, but if you are sending a request to do something, for example, if you want to generate a AI video or generate a content, you will be sending a post request, okay, with the data. So think of it in a sense that you are posting like a letter or like a email, okay? You're posting something to somebody, okay? But if you're using get, you want to get that data and work with that data. Okay, so that's kind of the key differences, guys. Okay, but if you want me to drop a beginner-friendly course on the all the API requests, guys, and I can show you how to use something called APIs, guys. Okay, and something to use with APIs called Postman. Okay, guys. And Postman is essentially a API platform. It's 100% free, guys. And the reason why I like Postman, because it's really easy to test API endpoints. Okay, so you can know right away if you have the right tokens, right authorization. Okay, all you do is send a test request, and it says like, is it 200 or it's one of the 400s? Okay, if it's like not authenticated, wrong tokens, wrong authorization, guys. So it's really easy. You're just gonna be copy pasting the URL right here. So for example, here I'm using file API to send a request to 11 Labs API. Okay, so here if I click send, guys, it's gonna tell me that now the status is in queue, meaning my request is being put in the queue on the file API. Okay, and it gives me request ID, response URL, and that stuff. This tells me that it's a success, so it's a 200, and 200 is always a good news. Okay, it means that request was success, guys. Okay, and it's good to know these basics because you're going to be working with a lot of APIs in n8n, guys. So if you want me to as well drop a free course on API in Postman, guys, let me know down in the comments, and I'll drop a free course on that as well for all you out there beginners, or even if you're more advanced and you just want to learn more about APIs and what it is. Let me know in the comments, guys, and I'll drop a free course on that as well. Cool, guys, so here we're getting the link through HTTP, okay, and here we are pulling the URL from ClickUp. If I just go here, you guys see it's just essentially a actual ClickUp's changelog URL, okay, and I'll show you how exactly we know what to pull from where on this website, okay, guys, because if we go here and we check it out, guys, we have all of this data. So we need to be specifically targeting specific CSS selectors to extract the data from specific divs and the CSS selectors, guys. So I'll explain you that as well in a bit, okay? And yeah, guys, so ChatGPT that does have very basic web scraping capabilities, but it wouldn't work with if there's some kind of a, you know, your human type of thing verification, or if it is a more complex crawling process. ChatGPT doesn't do that. ChatGPT essentially crawls data the same way we would go on Google. We would click on a website and we would go on the other website, on the other link on the website, okay? So it essentially kind of behaves like a human behavior when it comes to web scraping, okay? If you need more complex web scraping, you will need to use specialized web scraping APIs, guys, okay? And those can do quite way more, scraping the prices, scraping dynamic prices when they change, guys. So there's a lot of, you know, apps that do that if you want to keep an eye on Amazon pricing changes, or on changes in the stock market. Okay, so that stuff changes dynamically. There are different APIs, guys, and you can scrape that data live and dynamically. And for something like that, you would be using more advanced web scraping APIs, guys. Okay, so ChatGPT doesn't do advanced stuff. It really does the basics, but again, to spy on your competitions, that's all we really need, and it does pretty good job with that, guys. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, so next up, we are extracting the data in a form of HTML. Okay, so here we are using HTML node, okay, and we are extracting HTML content from the ClickUp's changelog website, okay. Then the JSON property will be data, okay, because we are extracting data, okay. And here are the keys. So these are the important ones, okay. So the key we want is the title, okay. So title, and then we are targeting the CSS selector, guys. Okay, let me just show you again how that works. If I go back to ClickUp, guys, okay, so we are targeting the key title. So if I go to inspect right here, let me just expand on this a little bit more like this, okay. And now if I go, okay, we're looking for a changelog entry here, this one here. So that's the one we want, okay. Here, guys, so this is essentially the main div that is wrapping up the entire changelog block, guys. Okay, so if I select it here, guys, you can see it's being highlighted. So that's where all the changelog data is being stored within the HTML, and we are essentially targeting that through a CSS selector here. So div that changelog. Okay, guys. If you're not familiar with HTML and the basics of the web development, don't worry, guys, it's super simple. So the divs are essentially all the boxes on the website you see, guys, because each element on the website is wrapped in a div box. It's a very general naming convention. Essentially, div, it's a sort of a section or a box that is wrapping a specific place in a website, or a box or a section, stuff like that, guys, okay? And then that div has a class within it, which is a CSS selector here, guys. So if I'm highlighting here, you can see change log entry in that CSS, and CSS is frequently used to style, well, not frequently, actually, CSS is only used for mostly styling the website how it looks, guys, okay? Because if we strip all the CSS data, it's gonna be super ugly, guys, okay? So if you remember any websites from the early 90s, okay, so there was almost no CSS, so that essentially will be just plain black and white text instead of all these nice colors and styles, guys, okay? So we are selecting the changelog div class, okay, because it's styling and wrapping the changelog release notes right here, guys. And we want to make sure that we are pulling that as a text for the return, because we want to pull the text data only out of there, okay? And then we also targeting the changelog entry href. So hrefs are essentially links, okay? So we want to pull all of the data from the changelog div right here, guys. Okay, so that's essentially, in a very basic term, that's what it does, okay? So we are pulling the titles, the summaries, and all the links within to make sure that we are targeting all the changes that your competition has done, guys, okay? And you would do it in the same way. It can be any website, guys. So let me just go, for example, here, Monday.com changelog, just so I can show you how that works. So API changelog, whatever, we want any changelog, okay? So breaking change, they released it in July, are we in? Okay. Anyways, guys, doesn't really matter. So here we have actually June 4, 2025, there's a new change. So if we want to be pulling all the latest changes, what we want to do, we will essentially, first we're gonna select this entire div right here. So here we have the main class changelog, okay? So sometimes websites are using main to saying that this is the main div or main section of the entire web page, okay? It's really, it's more of a naming convention and more about, you know, structure and best SEO practices. You know, you can just name it as a div. Sometimes you're going to see main, sometimes you're going to section. So it really depends on the how they go about their SEO structure, guys, and architecture for their website in general, guys. But it really doesn't matter. All you're going to do, you're going to go inspect, do the dev tools, and then just highlight essentially the entire box where the changelog is stored. Okay, and here we have the rm-changelog class, okay, and that would be our CSS selector, guys. That's how you would essentially use that. And just here, you're gonna plug and play instead of the my CSS selectors, all right? And again, guys, I added like really the basic notes in the summary right here, guys. Okay, so all we need to do if you are still struggling with the HTML and CSS selectors, I get it, guys. It's a pretty daunting adventure if you're just starting off. Okay, so just essentially what you're gonna do, you're gonna go like this, and you're gonna select this entire thing right here, for example, or any of your competition's website changelog block. Okay, just like here. Then you're gonna click right click, and then you're gonna click on edit HTML, and then select all of these right here. Okay, just copy paste, bring it to ChatGPT. So bring it to ChatGPT, then paste it all in, and what you need to ask from ChatGPT is the following, okay? So let me just go here. Let me go back to our n8n workflow. So what do we need? We need a title, link, and summary, okay? What I would do, where is it? Okay, so extract HTML data, parses the latest changelog. Okay, so we need title, link, and summary. Okay. So what are the title, link, and summary CSS selectors here that I can use for n8n HTML extraction node? Okay, just as an example. Okay, guys, and here it is. That's exactly what you need. So it gives you the title selector, h1 dot whatever, the CSS selector, and link selector, and summary selector, guys. Okay, and if you guys go here and we just go on HTML data here. Okay, so you're gonna place essentially the title here. So you don't need to delete the key. You just leave it here. All you're gonna change is the CSS selector here. So you take the title selector here. You're gonna copy this one and just replace it in here, guys. And that's as simple as it is, guys. Okay, so definitely make sure you have a subscription with ChatGPT or Claude. I heard that Claude works much better with n8n when it comes to working with n8n. Claude, I think it's a little bit better, but again, to each its own. Some people have more success with ChatGPT, some people have success with Claude. So again, comes down to personal preference, guys. Okay, so but that's how you essentially approach HTML node and how to find the correct CSS selectors for your competitor's website, for example, guys. Okay, and I mean, obviously you can use more advanced web scrapers that will do all that for you, but again, web scraping APIs are quite expensive, guys. It is much cheaper to use something like ChatGPT, guys. Okay, web scraping it's quite an expensive operation overall, guys. Okay. Okay, so now let's move on to the OpenAI summarize. And essentially, I'm using a very simple OpenAI node. Okay, n8n has its own dedicated node for ChatGPT, guys. It's super easy to use, guys. You're just gonna choose the models, bring in your API key, guys. Super easy. And if you don't know how to bring in your API keys, it's super easy, guys. All you're gonna do, you're gonna go to OpenAI, and then we're gonna go to login, I believe. If I'm login. API platform. Then we're gonna go to dashboard right here, and then you're gonna go to API keys, guys. Okay, and here I have my API keys, guys. They're hidden for a reason. Okay, never show your API keys to anybody, and don't bring your API keys into ChatGPT or even Claude. Although Claude says they don't share your data, but I would still bring in my API keys into any platform. And I mean, it's not the end of the world if somebody has your API keys. They're just going to use them, and you're going to see a huge spike in API usage, and then you can just delete API key and create a new one, and that solves the problem. But industry's best practice: never ever share your API keys with anybody else. It's a trusted friend, or you're doing it for work, but don't share it with public, guys. Okay, there's some exceptions like Firebase. If you're using like Firebase database, there's some public API keys. But when it comes to any ChatGPT or Cloud API keys, guys, don't ever share it with anybody, okay? You're just gonna pay the price at the end of the day. Cool. So you're just gonna take the API keys and bring it to OpenAI's node, guys, and do the authentication. Super straightforward and easy, guys, okay? Here I'm using the GPT 4.1 Mini model because I don't need to use an expensive model like 4.0 just to like do some basic text summarization. So 4.1 is much cheaper, and it's good enough to do basic text operations. Okay, so here I'm using a bit of expressions and also static data. So here, provide a detailed yet concise summary in one sentence. Clearly highlight all key features and changes mentioned in the following changelog engine. Okay, so here we have title. Then we're doing a variable JSON title, and then we're doing variable JSON summary. Okay, so essentially, to make things dynamic, we need to use variables, and for that we use JSON to extract the data and use that in the variable like title and summary. So if you ask me where is the title and summary coming from, guys, let me show you that in a sec, guys. So to find out, we're gonna go back to the flow. And it's essentially parsing data from the HTML extract data node, guys. So here you can see we have a summary, okay, and essentially it's taking all the raw HTML data from the HTML extraction. So we're using the summary JSON key, and then we're using the JSON key as well for the title. So this is where it's coming from. You guys see it's the same title, summary, and those are essentially the JSON keys that we are using in the prompt right here, guys. So title is JSON title, and summary is JSON summary, okay? And then you'll see what it looks like when actually you get an email from the n8n with all this summarization and data converted for human eyes, guys, okay? So now we're doing a bit of fun stuff. Here we are using some basic JavaScript. So all it really does here, this basic JS snippet just essentially is checking if there is a similar or duplicate title in the database or in the memory, okay? And then it's essentially checking if there is one. It's not going to do anything. It's not going to add a duplicate data. But if there is one, it's going to move on to the update new title, guys. Essentially, it's going to be using this JS, and then it's going to be adding a new title. If there is no similar or duplicate title, well, not similar. If there is no duplicate title, it's going to create a new title, and it's going to be using this JS snippet here. And then we're moving on to the next JS snippet. And here we're doing a bit of very basic JS operation, and we are formatting the data from the ISO format to a human version type of date format. Okay, guys. So we are using the date, the month, the year, month, year, and the time, I believe. Okay, so that's actually what it does. It's just formatting the ISO format into a human understandable time format. Okay, then we're moving on to this step where we basically are putting all the data on the Google Sheet. Okay, so here you're going to be connecting it to your Google Drive, not Google Drive, Google Sheets, or well, your Gmail account. Okay, so when you authenticate your Gmail account, you are authenticating everything within your Gmail account, like Google Sheets, Google Docs, Slides, whatever it is. Okay, so now n8n has full access to that, and it can take data from n8n, extract the data from wherever you're pulling it, and bringing it to your Google account. Okay, so I'm bringing it to a specific here, so it has access to all my Google Sheets here. So for that, you will need to go to your Google Sheets, create a sheet, and I just called it competitor change log logs. Okay, and then I'm gonna choose it from drop down menu here. Okay, sheet 1. Okay, because I think there's only sheet 1. Yeah, so there's only one sheet, so it makes sense. Okay, and then we're gonna be mapping each column manually because we are taking the data from somewhere else. So that's why we make sure we are mapping it manually, not automatically. And here we are essentially doing something similar like previously. So here we have, if you guys remember, we have title, summary, and we have links and the dates. Okay, so the data is formatted from JS, and then we're gonna bring it in here and input that into the table, guys. So here we are using, and it looks complicated, but not really that complicated. So here we have essentially saying node are, so let me show you guys. So nodes are all these ones. So if you see, guys, in a code format, these are all called nodes. Okay, so if I go back here, so here we have node, and the node is called extract HTML data. So it's really important that you are using the correct names, because if you, for example, change this one to something else, it's going to break the flow, and it's going to say it can't, it's going to say basically this node is undefined because now it's not matching the values. Okay, so it's really important that you match all the values. So here the node is called extract HTML data. And then from that node, we are pulling JSON, which is title, guys. Okay, if you guys remember, let me go back again so you kind of really understand it very well. If I go back to the node that says extract HTML data, I open it here, and if we look for title, and essentially this is the JSON data we're pulling in. Okay, guys, so let me go back here, node extract HTML data, JSON, and then we're pulling from that JSON title. Okay, and the same for summary, links, and etc., guys. Okay, so it's essentially duplicate in a sense. You're just going to be changing the node name and the adjacent type. Okay, so instead of title, now it's a content, and instead of content here, it become a link, and etc. Okay, and once everything is done, I want to receive a notification on my Gmail account. Okay, and here it's a Arthur's Gmail or my Gmail. I want to receive a message, operation is sent. Okay, because n8n will be sending an email, so operation is sent. Okay, to my email, or it can be any email, your email, guys, doesn't really matter. And here we have a title. Okay, for title is slightly dynamic because if we don't use these variables here, it's going to be a static data like new competitor change, like the same thing over time, guys. Okay, but we want to make sure that we match the the title based on the changelog's title. So changelog 1 could be new update, ClickUp AI model was updated. Because next time they're gonna update something else, now the title will change. It's gonna be something like ClickUp update 5 point something, and then they're gonna say improved, I don't know, description box summarization using our AI model. Okay, so each time it's gonna be dynamic, and if you want to make sure that you're pulling the dynamic title from the changelog, you want to be using expressions, and those we are putting into curly braces. Okay, so this is why we can pull in the expressions, what we call, instead of the static data, guys. Okay, so here we're going to be pulling the dynamic title every time from the changelog instead of having something static. Okay, so here we have a message, and this you need to format in HTML. Okay, because if you want to use dynamic data, if you guys remember, we are pulling the title, summary, and links. Okay, so if you want to have all those included in the email body, you have to use it as HTML. So you can use the expressions right here, guys. Okay, so these are expressions and the curly braces, guys. Again, same thing over and over again. JSON title, JSON text, etc., guys. So if you want to make sure that you're pulling dynamic data from the changelog, you need to use the expressions in the HTML here, guys. Okay. And guys, I know it sounds complicated, but once you wrap your head around it and do it a couple of times, it's going to be super easy and straightforward, guys. And you're going to be able to download this entire JSON file and then play around with it and, you know, send your own test messages and actually see how it goes from raw data to a email and etc. guys. It's pretty fun, guys. So essentially, guys, that's what it is. So now let's do the super fun part and actually test the workflow, guys. So right now my flow is disabled. But once you enable it, guys, essentially this operation will be repeated every day after midnight. It's going to go and check on the competitor's website if there's any change. Okay, guys. For now, I'm doing it manually as a test workflow, guys. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go here. I'm going to click on execute workflow, guys, just like that. There you go. It's doing all the steps, guys. Awesome. Putting the data into Google Sheet and sending me a notification, guys. Perfect. So now let's go. Let's refresh this Google Sheet here. Okay. And there, guys, here we have the data. So ClickUp release. Okay. And guys, I just want to go here so we can have a side by side to make sure that we actually are pulling the exact data from there and it's all correctly. So the title, ClickUp release, nodes 3.57. Yes, that's a match. Enhances productivity by improving docs, streamlining access management, faster setup. Let's see if that is. Faster access management. Exactly. That's exactly what it is, guys. So essentially, we are taking all of this data and summarizing that in a couple of sentences, okay, to let us know what competition is doing, guys. And it gives us a link and also a date, guys. Cool. So Google Sheets are working, guys. Now let's go ahead and check out the Gmail. Okay, so if we go to my personal Gmail, for example, and here, guys, is the email. New competitor change like update ClickUp release, guys. As you guys see, guys, dynamically from the JSON. Then we have the body context and message, guys. So if I go here, if I look at here, guys, you guys remember we have like a bunch of gibberish HTML, guys. And essentially, if we go back to our flow, guys, here, sorry, guys, so our Gmail, here we can see that there has been a new update from the competitor's changelog. We have the title. For some reason, summary is not working. It looks like we have a problem with the summary, but we have a changelog and we have the date, guys. So this is good because let's go ahead and actually try to troubleshoot and see what it says. So here we have the changelog, not the summarize. I think the summarized text is in red, guys, and it's essentially saying it's undefined. Okay, so there is something undefined in our flow. Okay, guys, so the problem was that I was using this in the email notification node. Okay, so here in the HTML message, guys, I was using this right here, guys. Okay, so I was essentially pulling the data from OpenAI to summarize, and it was essentially saying that JSON text, okay, which was the wrong way of pulling the data from the JSON, guys. Okay, so the mistake was right here, guys. So instead of the text, I had to do message and then content, guys. Okay, because ChatGPT outputs the data in a content format. So and the message, guys. So I need to use the ChatGPT's output format instead of the text. Okay, so that's why it was undefined, because there was nothing to be returned from the ChatGPT's response because it was simply in the wrong format. Okay, guys. And again, it's fairly easy, guys. You just need to play around and read the errors in your n8n, guys, and it's pretty easy to troubleshoot them, guys. Okay, so but it was pretty easy fix, guys. So now I retriggered the flow, guys, here, and now we can see that we have the summary properly being now we can see the summary properly being included in our email, guys. Okay, data is being inserted, so we fixed a small bug in there, which is pretty good, guys. You're going to be facing a few bugs, and honestly I encourage them, guys, because every time you encounter a bug, okay, you learn how to troubleshoot them, how to fix them, guys. Okay, and that is the best way to actually learn any new platform or language or whatever you guys are doing, guys. So the more errors you're getting, the better is, because you are actually learning way more than just copy pasting stuff. Okay, guys, so always encourage the problems and try to do as many things as possible yourself, guys. Okay, because once you start getting problems, and if you're copy pasting stuff from somewhere, okay, it's gonna get pretty chaotic and complex, because copy pasting content is one thing, but actually when you start facing the errors, you won't know exactly how to fix them, guys. Okay, and if you're using ChatGPT and Cloud, you know, and the project is huge, it's gonna get overwhelmed, and you're gonna get a bunch of wrong answers from the LLMs as well, guys. Okay, so try to at least learn the basics, because it's gonna pay off, guys. Okay, so that's essentially, guys. It's super simple flow and super fun to use, guys. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, guys, if you're following along. If not, guys, I'll make this entire thing available as a JSON download, guys. So you just have to download it, import that into your n8n flow, guys. and replace the credentials for Gmail and all that stuff, guys, and you are good to go, guys. Okay, and if you enjoy the content, like and subscribe, and I'm gonna be dropping more n8n content in the coming days, guys, so definitely subscribe so you are kept up to date, and you're gonna be learning a lot of stuff, guys. We're gonna be seeing each other quite a lot, and I'm gonna be dropping some pretty fun stuff, guys. Okay, so make sure to follow, guys, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.